Hey, welcome to the Kinda Sleepy Podcast. I'm your host, Knowledge, and who do I have to my left?
Miss EP.
The voice of reason, somewhat today.
Somewhat. I'm living my best life.
Ain't going back and forth with you niggas. I'm living my best life.
Mommy. And welcome.
Welcome. I go back and forth with you niggas. I'm living my best.
I think I'm going to start just like when I'm driving past somebody or walk past them or something in the store. You pass by those people that just seem super grumpy.
Smile, bitch.
Right. Smile, bitch. Do like a jump,
Now, if I get fired tomorrow for doing that at work, you know I'm coming to live with you, right? Look at you, didn't choke. Anyway, let's go on let's jump right into our stories. We're going to start off with somebody that's living their best life. I posted on the page that not all heroes wear capes, apparently, or clothes. So this dude walked into a Planet Fitness, got naked, and decided it would be a really good idea to start doing yoga. He is my hero for the week.
Why?
I mean, think about how free you got to be.
Or high.
Well, that too. But, okay, so this happened in Boston. His name was Eric Stagno of Haverhill, Massachusetts. He was charged with indecent exposure, lewdness, and disorderly conduct after he walked into the gym, took off his clothes, walked back and forth a couple times, and then started doing poses on his knees on a yoga mat. As he was being arrested, the police said... As he was being arrested, he said, "I thought this was a judgment-free zone." At that point, the police said, "Ain't going back and forth with you, nigga. You're going to jail now."
That's sad.
No, it's not.
Okay, so...
Ain't that sad about that?
Well, I have been to a couple gyms before. I've never actually been to Planet Fitness.
I've been to Planet Fitness. I had a membership. Did not like it, but continue.
From what I understand, people don't actually do like yoga at Planet Fitness, right?
They don't do yoga.
There's no classes at Planet
Fitness.
There's
not much.
Right?
I don't think so.
There's
not much heavy lifting that I've seen.
Right.
Now, there are guys that go in there and that really get it in. Like, I'm not going to lie about that. I know a couple guys, shout out to Big Vaughn, shout out to a couple other folks I've seen, take their photos in Planet Fitness that go in there and really get in. But I just don't believe in going to a gym that has pizza day.
Yeah.
Or bagel night.
Yeah.
That's the antithesis of what I'm trying to do here right now. You feed me all these carbs and fats, but you're telling me to work out. Like, I literally watched this lady on, like, the sit-down stationary bike with a plate of pizza doing her bike thing. I was like, that's the fattest, fittest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, they're making money.
You
clearly got to keep coming back.
At the end of the day, it's a money-making endeavor, but I just don't prefer to go to Planet Fitness.
But I'm just thinking, okay, so out of all places old dude could have went to, he chose Planet Fitness.
But Planet Fitness is a judgment-free zone. He has a point.
There's a difference in judgment-free and ass naked.
He has a point.
That's not the same thing.
Don't judge me for doing naked yoga. Just
ain't going back and forth.
So, he is my hero for the week, Eric Stagno of Haverhill,
I'm a
Massachusetts.
little concerned, but okay.
All right, just for that, I'm going to go to Fitness Connection and do the same thing, except I'm going to do jumping jacks. Anyway, next story.
So I remember back in the day when people used to say stuff like bang out with your wank out.
Rock out with your cock out.
With your cock out.
Right.
Okay, so what's the definition? Because I tried to Google it.
I don't know.
Because I wanted to know if it applied to this situation.
Well, I think it absolutely applies to this,
or he redefined it and put it that way.
Yeah, like, I don't.
Yeah, I think he gave it a new definition.
Yeah. I mean, go all out with your balls out. Like, that's what he did. So, no, I think it comes from the phrase balls out, though. Or, just another phrase for going hard.
Or as we referenced all this weekend, he did some bald-headed hoe shit.
Bald-headed hoe shit.
He did.
That's exactly what he was doing. This weekend has been brought to you by Bald-Headed Hoe Shit. That's our sponsor for the week, by the way. New sponsor alert. Bald-Headed Hoe Shit. Speaking of Bald-Headed Hoe Shit, every time I go to McDonald's, the shake machine be down. And apparently, this lady got fed up. This lady in Nevada got fed up and decided to let them know how she felt about the shake machine always being down. And so she threw a soda at a customer, and apparently she threw a soda at an employee. And apparently this employee is E Honda from Street Fighter, the first Street Fighter, because she came out from behind the counter and gave her 100 hand slap.
I think she was the manager.
Yeah, but here's my thing though. Like, I've never understood why folks get abusive with fast food employees. Like, think about it. They have to, like, I'm actually very nice to fast food employees.
I am too.
Number one, because they have my food in their hands. Number two, because I know the kind of stuff they have to deal with on a regular basis. Like, customers can be downright jerks.
Right.
You know, especially at fast food restaurants, because they don't value fast food workers. You know, like, I had to check somebody in my family once for being like, well, if they was smart enough to work somewhere else, they would. I was like, okay. And when I was 16 working at Papa John's, would you say that about me? I mean, sometimes you just got to pay the bills. Sometimes,
right.
you know, you might not, you know, it just is what it is. And so I also read somewhere where somebody was like, people like to the only reason people ask you what you do for a living is so they know how much respect to give you.
Uh-huh.
And so, you know, you go in these restaurants like McDonald's, like Burger King, Carl's Jr., Hardee's, White Castle Crystal, whatever, Taco Bell, and you treat these folks like crap, but they're humans. And some of these folk really will put hands on you, like this lady found out. That lady came out from behind that counter and hit her with the thunder. And it was crazy. She was beating on the girl, and then another, I guess, manager stepped in to try to break it up. And the belligerent meth head customer started hitting that manager. That manager wasn't playing either. She was like, oh no, this ain't finna happen. And so she gave her some hands too. She put them ha-has to her too.
The ha-has?
The ha-has, gave her the ha-has.
We used to call them thigh-has.
Yeah, we did too. But she went back to the early 2000s, said, let me get them ha-has on you. You know what I'm saying? So she gave it to her, you know. So y'all gonna learn to stop playing with these folks, man. Y'all gonna, like, do you remember that video that went viral? Where these two girls was like coming up to this dude working at McDonald's, and they was talking all kind of crazy to him, and he was trying to be left alone. And somehow they got behind the counter and random started hitting him. And I don't know if he like snapped off the handle to the fry basket or whatever, but he just started beating the hell out of both of them.
No.
Yeah, I remember that video very vividly. Like, he was beating the hell out of them. It was amazing to me.
I remember the lady fighting through the drive-through window. I remember that video.
The lady that got snatched through the window?
Yes.
Oh, man, that was classic. That was classic. But y'all need to stop, you know, bothering these folks, man, because these folks, you know, they're already having a rough day dealing with some of y'all. You know, you get up there. McDonald's had the same menu for 58 years.
No, not necessarily. I hate when people say that. They change their menus.
The chicken select's gone.
Okay, so
you know good and well when you go to McDonald's, you're gonna order a number 2, no cheese, no onions, or something like that.
I don't even know what a number 2 is.
No, I'm not saying you specifically.
Okay, right. Okay.
I didn't mean you specifically. I mean, but most people have their same good old faithfuls that they go to the restaurant and get. Then you got some people that come up to the counter and stay at the menu for 27 minutes. Let me get a
No, I'm gonna tell you why people do that.
Do the chicken fingers come fried? I gotta fry them when I get home.
Nobody said that. Be quiet. No, this is what I think takes a long time. So I think people look at the menu and then they get kind of distracted by those new $6 and $7 and $8 burgers that McDonald's has. And you're like, ooh, but wait, this is McDonald's. And so it's probably really not all that. And so you go ahead and get that $1 burger you was going to get.
As you should at the beginning. If you wanted a $6, $7, $8 burger, you go to Five Guys.
I just think it's a distraction.
Or Smash Burger.
I think
or
it's something
like
that you have to look at, you think twice about, and it's like, nah.
I'm not going to McDonald's to get a burger that Smash Burger and Five Guys have perfected.
Well, I tried one day. I regretted it.
Your stomach still intact?
No, my stomach was fine. It's just that the burger looked absolutely nothing like.
Well, yeah, those burgers rarely, if ever, look like the what you find on the menu.
I legit used to have a thing for the Arch Burger. Nobody remembers the Arch Burger.
I remember Arch Burger.
The Arch Burger was my favorite. I am waiting for it to ever come back.
I remember the 90s when they actually did those news shows about how they make the food look so good in commercials. Mm-hmm. Like how they was making milk look really good. It was actually glue.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And I remember those things. Or how they would take like an actual bun and get like a small butane torch, like a lighter, and toast it like right there so they could get it just perfect.
That's horrible.
Yeah, so they would do little stuff like that. But anyway, y'all leave these McDonald's folks alone.
Just be considerate.
Personally, I thought that was good customer service. I think, honestly, here's my thing. I feel like, and I've worked in retail before. Okay, I was a retail manager. I've done retail at various places. I've done food service and all that. There are certain things where there's a boundary. And I feel like if you cross certain boundaries, I should have the right, not only as an employee, but as a human being, to defend myself.
True.
And that's one of those situations. Like, I'll never forget the time a dude came up to me when I was working at Finish Line and threw a shoe at me.
Wow. For what? Do you remember?
So, I'll tell you. Okay, so we had this, at Finish Line, we used to have this big end of the year sale. And, you know, we would have to get all these clearance shoes out the bag. We put one shoe out. You know, we had to stick all the labels on them. And we'd have, like the store I was at, we had like 200 plus shoes up there, individual shoes. That's just in men's. So, some people would think it would be easy for them to switch tags and stuff like that. Well, one day there was a tag that didn't have nothing on it. And sometimes when we ran out of certain price stickers, we would take a marker and write on there. So this dude goes up and he takes a toddler Air Force One and writes $4.99 on it. Now, you know. Now, you used to work at Athlete's Foot.
And Foot Locker.
And Foot Locker. So you know that a clearance Air Force One, I don't care if it's an infant Air Force One, it's never going to be $5.
Never.
Never going to be $5. So he goes to this employee, one of the employees, and says, hey, you got the other one of this? You know, I see it's $5. And so that employee was like, nah, bro, I don't think that's right. He was like, well, it's on the tag. I was like,
you're supposed to give it to me for whatever the tag says.
He was like, nah, this ain't right. He's like, nah, it's like, he said, let me do a price check. He said, nah, that's what's on the tag. You don't give it to me for what's on the tag. And so that employee, you know, he was a young kid at the time. He's doing very well for himself now as a grown man. He was like, hey, yo, you need to come talk to this dude. So I turn around, I go back over there. Dude tossed the shoe to me, kind of disrespectful. And I don't even catch it. I just let it hit me. I'm like, how can I help you? Because clearly you didn't jump smooth out your tree. Clearly you have landed on your head somewhere, throwing the shoe at me. He said, that shoe right there $5. I said, no, it's not. It's an Air Force One. It's not $5. I know it's not $5. I know the price of pretty much every shoe in here, and that one's not $5. It's actually $17.99. He was like, well, the tag say $5. Let me speak to the manager. I said, I am the manager. He said, well, who's your manager? I said, his name is Scott. Would you like his number? He was like, yeah, give me Scott's number. I said, gladly. And so I went to the back. I got one of his cards. I said, here's his number. Oh, wait, here's his cell phone number. I wrote his cell phone number on the back. I said, here you go. Here's his cell phone number. My name is, and I gave him my first, middle, and last name. I wrote the date on there, and I told him what time, and I wrote what time on there. I said, I want you to give him all the information and let him know that you threw a shoe at me and that somebody has taken a marker and written $4.99 on this tag and nobody's handwriting in this store. Okay?
You petty.
No, what I'm not going to let you do is disrespect my employee and then disrespect me. That's how I looked at it. I looked at it as protecting the employee. And I feel like that's something that should happen. I mean, you see these stories like all the time now where these folks putting hands on and disrespecting retail folk. And that's just not cool. Like, I wasn't raised like that. I'm not going to do that. Now, if you a retail person and you get wrong with me, I'm probably going to run up one side of you and down the other. But the thing is, these just disrespecting folks because of their job is not cool.
Not at all.
So, so I thought that was good customer service. But speaking of bad customer service, let's talk about Wells Fargo for a second. So, a black woman, an older black woman who's retired. She has a PhD. Her name is Barbara Carroll. She's 78 years old. She's a former assistant bank manager and a former probation officer at that. And like I said, she has a PhD, right? So she comes into the bank wanting to cash a check. Instead, the employees started asking her questions like, what does she do for a living? And where did she get the money from and all that. So Barbara's confused. She doesn't know what's going on. They're refusing to return her check, refusing to return her license. She calls the person that wrote the check, and they confirm the check was legitimate. So instead of cashing the check, they call the police. this Wells Fargo calls the police. The police came out there and they checked her ID, said her ID was valid. They finally cashed the check after 2.5 hours and a police visit after making her sit in the lobby the whole time. That's embarrassing. Now, ask me how much that check was for.
How much?
$140.
No, it wasn't. Nope. Mm-mm.
$140,000. No, 140,000. 28 times 5. 7 dubs.
And how old is she?
78. Now, neither the teller nor the manager apologized, and she called the Wells Fargo corporate office, and she wasn't satisfied by what they said to her. They said stuff about training or whatever. And so this is what Miss Carroll, 78-year-old Dr. Carroll, I should say, since she has a PhD, said. She said, it was your normal brush you up and make you smile comments. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so her lawyer said, ultimately, we're hopeful that this isn't just about Wells Fargo, that other corporations take notice and realize that there has to be some kind of change in our culture, that these things are not okay.
Well, honestly, being that, I have experience in financial services, there's this new concept. Well, I won't call it new at all because it's just reinventing the wheel. But they do this relationship banking thing. And, of course, with different regulations, they kind of try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So if you come in and now I definitely didn't think the check was for $140. I thought it was for way more than that. But as far as the probing questions, like what do you do? What are the funds for? Where are they from? It's kind of to gauge some things to see technically what they can sell you.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. But also some of it is for large purchases for large checks, it's sometimes for anti-money laundering stuff.
Right, that's what I was getting
stuff.
to. That's why I assumed the check was for way more than that because that would have made sense. No, that was just petty.
Very. Now, here's my thing. Now, I've had something similar to this happen to me. The police weren't called. I'll say the bank's name, TD Bank. So I was a contractor here in the area, and my last check from this particular company I was working for was always a paper check. It wasn't direct deposit. And so every time I got that paper check, I would go on and cash it at the bank that it was written on, which was TD Bank. So I've had to do this twice. The first time I went in TD Bank, I go up to the counter. Lady's like, hello, hi, how you doing? Hand the payroll check. It's a payroll check. It's literally a payroll check right there. And I give her my license and all that. And she's like, I can't cash this check. Okay, why can't you cash my check? It's not showing up in our system as a check that their style of check. Did you run the check? Did you check the account? Well, I'm gonna have to call somebody. I said, okay, make your phone call.
I don't like that statement as if you're gonna say, you know what, don't worry about it and leave. No, go ahead, call.
No, I was like, okay.
I want you to call.
I said, okay, call somebody. I said, call. I said, you can call HR. Do you need their number? She's like, no, we have a number here on file. I said, okay, call them. So she calls, nobody answers. And she's like, well, I can't take this check. I said, well, can I have my license back? She's like, no, I can't give you your license back either until we get this check cleared up. I said, can I speak to a manager? She said, well, the manager will be back in a second. I said, okay, I'll wait. And I went over and I sat on the couches and I waited. And so while I'm sitting on the couches, I'm paying attention to what's going on at the counter. And there's this older white lady that goes up there. Now, I'm listening to the whole conversation. Mm-hmm. Her check is signed in the wrong spot. And it's apparently damaged. There's apparently a tear on the check, too. Like the check is torn somewhere. And I'm sitting here like, what? They run the check the first time, and it doesn't go through. Like something gets rejected. She's like, let me try it again. They run this lady's check 2 or 3 more times. And finally it goes through. And they're like, oh, okay, well, here you go. Here's your money. Sorry about that.
Overly accommodating.
Just a completely overly accommodating. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there, minding my business. I got on some Asics, some jeans, and a white T-shirt.
Which shouldn't matter.
Yeah, it shouldn't. But I'm sitting there like, wow. Like, I'm really like, wow. So after I'm sitting there waiting for like 15 minutes, I'm just going to sit there and wait. I'm like, I'm not going nowhere without my money or my license. So I don't care what you got to do. You're going to give me one, the other, and or both, preferably. So, yeah. And so she, like 15 minutes later, a manager comes up And she calls back up to the counter, and the manager says, "Oh, yes, that is one of their checks. Look, it's right here." She points at the screen. She says, "Well, I still have to call." The manager says, "Okay, well, call this number." So she calls. They confirm it. I had already called HR and told them. I said, "I'm here at TD, man. They tripping." And so the guy who was the HR person, he was like, "I don't know why that's happening to you." He was confused too. So I was like, "Okay, well, it is what it is." So finally, once she gets the confirmation she needs, she just starts counting my money out. Doesn't say anything. She's like, "Would you like a snack cake?" Hell, if I don't want your damn snack cake, if you don't get that shit out my face, take your ass water here.
No, she needed the snack cake.
Right. I'm sitting there like, "No, I don't want your snack cake. Thank you." And so I got the money. I made a whole Facebook video about it. This was like a little over a year ago. Well, probably 2 years ago now. But the same thing at that same branch happened. Well, not the same exact situation, but the same thing happened at that branch. I started working for that contracting company again not too long ago. And my last check, once again, came as a paper check. I go to that bank, and I go up to the counter with my license and everything. Same license. All that. I've cashed a check there before. And they were like, we have to call somebody, and we have to verify this is the right check because I don't see this check in our system. I'm like, it seems like for y'all to do a lot of business with this bank, for them to have run their payroll through y'all, it seems like y'all really don't have a lot of information on this company that's a multinational company. Mm-hmm. And so I said, "That's fine. I've been through this before. I'll go sit down now." And so I went and sat down and let her do what she had to do. I came back up there, and this lady was much, much nicer. And she gave me all my cash and everything like that, and was like, "You okay? Have a nice day." I was like, "Yeah, all right."
Which I think their attitude towards it makes a world of difference, because it could be just a procedural issue that they have, or something systemic that they don't have access to certain information. There's limitations there or whatever. And if that's the case, then you don't have to tell me, a deep dive about what the issue is, but you can say something so it doesn't come across so personal, as if it's more so as if I'm untrustworthy or something.
Yeah. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I get so frustrated just thinking about that kind of stuff. Like the attitude, the assumption that this 78-year-old woman with a $140 check, or a young me with a check for a couple thousand, like we don't deserve to have that money. That's what the attitude says to me.
Yo, that $140 though?
That's crazy.
What is it for? Where did you get it from?
Like, that's bananas.
My answer would have been your mammy. Your mammy gave it to me. Call her and ask her.
Oh, God.
$140. So, you know what? I mean, honestly, nowadays, $140, you blink, it's gone.
Right.
So, I mean, you really question an old lady about $140?
Right. So, it's just, black people get the police called on them for all kinds of random stuff. We've seen that. I mean, this has been going on since the beginning of time, but it's just now becoming a more hot button issue because, we have more social media to talk about it, and we see the trend going on. Well, celebrity doesn't exempt you from this kind of stuff. So actor Ving Rhames, who's been in Mission Impossible and Undisputed, what movie you gonna call him? Call him out.
He will forever be Holiday. Somebody's gonna feel me on that one. He was in Holiday Heart. He will always be Holiday. I don't care what.
To me, he'll forever be either Marcellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction or Melvin from Baby Boy.
No, Holiday trumps all of those characters. So I don't care how tough he is in another role or what, he will forever be Holiday.
That's
baby
Melvin.
Love.
So anyway,
Yeah,
Melvin, Ving was
Holiday.
doing he was doing an interview recently, and he said that he was sitting at home one day, and he hears somebody at his door. Don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't know if it was the doorbell, and I don't know if it was banging on the door, but he said he hears somebody at the door, and he said he's at home, so all he has on is some basketball shorts. And so he says when he walks to the door and opens his door, he has his door and he has a screen door in front of it, like a lot of people do. He said he opened his door and all he sees is the barrel of a gun and somebody telling him to put his hands in the air. It's the police. They tell him to open the screen door with one hand while keeping the other hand in the air. According to him, there were a number of police officers out there, including the chief of police in this small town that he lives in California. As he comes outside with his hands raised, the chief of police comes up and looks at him and says, "Oh, y'all, it's Ving Rhames. Y'all stand down." Now, he made a very valid point. He said, what if I had come to the door? What if me and my son had been playing video games? And I come to the door with a video game controller in my hand, and somebody thinks it's a gun and they let off a shot at me in my own home. That's a very valid fear for a lot of us. It's been a big fear of mine ever since the 90s with Amadou Diallo, when he got shot 41 times for reaching for his wallet.
I think there's a new movie that's gonna be coming out, and it's a young lady in the car with her boyfriend.
I saw the previews for that. Right. It's
I don't remember the name of it, but
what did he do? He reached back in the car and they shot him.
He picked up his hairbrush.
Oh yeah, he picked up his brush and they shot him.
Hair. Yep.
And so, it's just, for a lot of folks, when we get pulled over by the police, that's a very real fear of ours. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about my personal feelings and experiences with it because I'm gonna get upset. So let's move on to another story that makes me upset, but it's not as personal for me. Chakesia Clemens. She was the woman who was slammed in Waffle House by the police, and partially disrobed. If what I just totally saw as excessive force. She was found guilty of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, which we knew was going to happen. I mean, the fact that the Mobile County District Attorney didn't throw it out is interesting to me. I've got a friend who works in that area in law enforcement. I would love to get her thoughts on it, but I understand how that can be difficult to discuss from a legal and law enforcement perspective. Mm-hmm. Now, this article about it said that, the reason she was found guilty was because the elements of what she was charged with and the facts of the case means that she had to be found guilty. Now, these are misdemeanor charges, if I'm not mistaken, but nonetheless, I mean, considering what happened and what it was over, and the fact that the police were even called because she was asking for a corporate's number, I mean, is beyond me. Like, I don't see how you just let that ride.
Well, I think the thing is, we just have to be mindful in any situation like that when the police do show up, that you don't give them any ammunition to actually have a reason to arrest you and it be valid. Like in her case, yeah, it sucked that she actually got arrested, but the charges stick. They actually, they're valid for what she was charged with.
Well, and my thing is, but the thing is, like, it doesn't matter whether we give them ammunition or not. They will create validity for any charge they want to put on.
I agree. But if I literally have done nothing, you can't charge me with disorderly conduct if I'm not doing absolutely anything.
Well, here's the thing. Like, let's say I'm sitting in Waffle House and I stand there, and let's say I don't say anything. And let's say you ask me a question and I say, I don't really want to answer that. My very presence at that point is disorderly conduct. Mm-hmm. So why do I have to be subjected to, why do I have to play extra uber ultra nice to not go to jail?
That I think is an issue. It's been an issue for a very long time, and unfortunately it will continue to be an issue.
Yeah, I agree. So keep your head up, Chakesia. I'm sure when it all shakes out, it'll all work out. But these are things that we just talked about, with, the black woman at Wells Fargo and, Ving Rhames and Chakesia Clemens. These are some of the main reasons why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling in protest for, for the disproportionate the disproportionate number of extrajudicial killings of African Americans by police officers and people who feel as though they have authority. Okay. So there is a scenario that just played out in Florida of this young man who was murdered. The facts are as this. He was in the car with his longtime girlfriend. They had their 5-year-old, their 3-year-old, and their infant in the car, right? and they were going to this gas station to pick up a candy bar for their 5-year-old. So the guy gets out of the car with his 5-year-old, and they go in the gas station. The lady just happens to park in a handicapped spot. She may not have even known it was a handicapped spot. I didn't see no tall sign or anything like that, but I wasn't paying attention for that either. So this other guy pulls up, and he gets out of his car, and he goes and looks at her license plate, and then confronts her. Now, I'm looking at when I looked at the video, when I looked at, when I learned of the guy's history, he had a history of starting confrontations and fights at that. Okay, so I'm looking at a picture of the handicap spot. It had a blue bumper thing, a curb thing. It had blue on the curb. It had a handicap logo on the ground, but there wasn't no sign, nothing like that. I mean, it's just pulled up, and this guy is really like going off on his on this lady, and he's pointing his finger at her and all that, and she gets out of the car because he's being very aggressive with her, and so as the man, Marquise McLaughlin, comes outside, he sees this man talking crazy and pointing his finger at his longtime girlfriend with his toddler and his infant in the back seat. And he goes and pushes the guy because the guy is at this point in his girlfriend's personal space. Mm-hmm. He had no business being able to even talking to them, point blank, period, especially not aggressively, with him not being a police officer or anything of the sort. So he pushes the guy falls. So Marquise is backing away at this point, and the guy pulls out a firearm and kills him. So you mean to tell me, now I only did a year of law school, so forgive me. But what I was taught is that self-defense, is when you're in fear of imminent bodily harm or death, mm-hmm. right? And if you don't have a duty to retreat, you cannot claim self-defense if you go from being the victim to the aggressor. Now, the way I look at this is that no, with the standing your ground law, you don't have a duty to retreat. But the moment that man started backing up, which happened immediately after he pushed this guy, Marquise McLaughlin started backing up. This coward pulls out a pistol and points at him. Marquise backs up some more. At that point, you shift from victim to aggressor.
Definitely.
Had Marquise or his girlfriend pulled out a firearm and killed this gentleman, I would objectively think that that's self-defense.
Mm-hmm. Which he could have done versus pushing him.
Which at this point, I think he should have done. Mm-hmm. To be honest, would have done the world a favor. But for the police chief to get up there and say, because of the stand your ground elements, we can't charge this guy with anything, I think that's garbage. I think that's not true. I don't think that they even cared to charge him. I don't think that when they looked at the video and took the totality of the circumstances into consideration, I don't think there's any way that you can look at this and see it as anything other than a murder.
Right. I mean, he definitely had the choice to get up and walk away.
Yeah, he hesitated. He pulled out the pistol and hesitated as this man was backing up.
Regardless of whether he backed up or not, if you're on the ground and that gentleman, he wasn't in his personal space. He wasn't doing anything to be the aggressor at that point. He pushed him away, from his girlfriend. And after that, there was no other interaction other than backing away from you.
Right.
There was nothing about being an aggressor in that case. I don't understand how. Well, I do understand how. I just don't agree with it.
Let some people tell it, though. I literally watched. I saw what hurt me the most was watching black men basically say that this guy deserved to die. I watched this black man, and it kills me when these old school black men say this. Like, this cat had to be like in his mid to late 40s. Mm-hmm. He said, "I'm a disabled vet, and you come push me down. I ain't a killer, but don't push me. I'm gonna shoot you too." I said, "Then you're a coward. Period.
You are.
You're a coward. If you think getting pushed means you now have the right to take somebody's life, you're a coward. And if you were born, and my thing is, I'm not dissing the new generation of folks, but I grew up in an era. I grew up in the crack era, right? So the thing is, growing up in the crack era, if we taking it to fisticuffs, we'll scrap in the street. The only
barefoot.
The only time that you really saw pistol play in the hood was over money or when it was over dope. If we scrapping, we scrapping. You put your hands on me, I'm going to put my hands on you.
Nobody pulls out pistols just for a disagreement.
But the fact that people are now talking about, well, you know, he deserved it. No, y'all punks. If you're over the age of 15 and you think it's okay to pull a gun on somebody because your ego is bruised, you a punk. Point blank, period. You don't, these older folks that are justifying this, you have relinquished all rights to talk about the young generation and these new kids doing this because you're a punk. You raised these kids to be punks. And now you out here acting like punks when somebody pushes you down because you completely dead wrong. You're a punk.
You sound like you want a little smoke.
I want all the smoke. Yeah. That's what I was getting to.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not quite to where I want smoke yet.
Not yet? Okay.
I want smoke with the dude that shot him. I do. I want all the smoke with that dude. But I'm going to tell you who I want smoke with up next. Because a little bit earlier, we talked about how Colin Kaepernick was kneeling to protest the injustices that were going on regarding black folks and not getting equal treatment from the law, under the law. Well, you have a lot of NFL folks. You know, the NFL said that, you know, players can either come on the field or stay in the tunnel. If you kneel during the anthem, you'll take a fine. Well, one courageous NFL player came out and said, I'm just going to pay the fine then. Cool. But then you got Jerry Jones, the owner of quote-unquote America's team, coming out and saying all Cowboys will be on the field and all Cowboys will stand. Now, at this point, I was like, I don't think any Cowboy player should suit up at this point. You know, the man done disrespected y'all enough by now, man. Come on, dog. At some point, your pride got to come into play.
I mean, if everybody did decide not to suit up, I mean, what can he do?
Right. But we now know why every single Cowboy would be on the field, because Dakota, I'm not going to give him a hood nickname no more. Never going to give him a hood nickname again. He can't have his name shortened no more. Dakota Prescott decided to come out and say, basically, I never protest. I don't protest during the national anthem because I don't think it's a time or a place. Now I want smoke.
Uh-oh. No smoke, no smoke. I know you don't want it.
I am so sick of hearing that shit. I don't think it's the time nor place. There is no such thing as a proper time or place for you people when it comes to protesting. There is not a single protest in this country that has ever been acceptable to you people. And when I say you people, I'm being very specific. I'm talking about you people who think it's okay for black people to be treated as second-class citizens in this country. Point blank, period. The people who rationalize and justify dead, bruised, battered, injured, and maimed black bodies in the street at the hands of those we pay taxes to protect and serve us. People who rationalize the death of black people in circumstances where we wouldn't be given the same benefit of the doubt. This is bullshit, Dakota. And what one of your fellow NFL players found out just this past year is that it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much you pretend to think that you don't have to deal with the same things that the rest of us regular black folks deal with. You can still get your ass whooped by the police.
That is true.
And then and see, this is what kills me the most. It kills me so much because, you know, specifically with being a black quarterback such as Dakota Prescott is, and seeing as how Cameron Newton here in this city is also a black quarterback, when they came out of college, they were called all kinds of dumb, unintelligent, incapable, all sorts of things. They got called every stereotype in the book when it came to their level of ability and play. And so they had to do twice as good as your average journeyman quarterback that was not black to even get their roles, right? But then, even worse than that, let Dakota make a bad play. I have literally looked at message boards where Cameron Newton was called all sorts of niggas, jigaboos, monkey, baboon, black bastard, lipped, big lip mofos, and the same thing goes for Dakota. But yet you're okay with being treated like a second-class citizen as long as they get that check.
No, I don't think it's a matter of whether or not he's okay with it. I think he's just been groomed very well. And I don't mean that literally.
Whether it's very well is arguable.
I mean groomed, groomed very well to be accepting of such treatment.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Anyway,
I mean, he did just leave Mississippi.
Won't be watching the NFL. And see, that's what makes it even worse to me.
No,
you know how many niggas you got called in Mississippi?
No,
Dakota?
That's what I mean when I say I think he's been groomed to accept certain things.
Yeah, Dakota. Anyway, on a lighter note, Odell Beckham been accused of trying to pay for booty. Woman booty.
I was about to say, please clarify.
Yeah, woman booty. I know people always got jokes about him dating Drake.
I think they'd be cute together.
Who was that said Drake done took more flights to see Odell Beckham than his own son?
Ooh. That's below the belt, man.
But is it true, though? Pusha T voice, you are hiding a child. Oh,
That's
shoot.
messed up.
Kiki, do you love me? Now, if I go out there and listen to this song again and say, "Obi, do you love me?"
No.
Yeah. Anyway,
What was the way he did say a name in it that was like this started with a D? Did he say Deja?
Deja. He did say Deja.
He may have been talking about him.
I don't. You think that OBJ's like if he had if Odell Beckham Jr. was like a woman, you know how y'all have club names?
Mm-hmm.
You think his club name would be Deja?
I could see it being Deja.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I think Odell Beckham's an amazing athlete, first of all, but I think he's more creative than that too. I think he's way more creative than that. I think Odell Beckham, if he had like a club name, it'd be something like Marvacious.
I do. I agree with everything you said. I think he's a great athlete, and I think he's very creative. But I could see it being Deja.
That's the official hood bad chick name.
Deja?
Yeah.
Mm.
Everybody want to be a Deja. Everybody want to be a Deja in the hood. Deja or Sean. I remember at one point it was Deja or Sean.
Sean?
Yeah. Everybody want to be a Deja or Sean.
But I thought the girls with like the two short names like Kiki and TT and
But no,
Lala.
those were like nicknames, but like girls would give themselves names like Deja and Sean.
Oh.
Everybody else call you Kiki, TT, Lala, Day Day, all that. So, according to the court documents in California, Ishmael Temple, a homie of Odell Beckham's, claimed that he was at Beckham's house back in January, and OBJ ordered his employees to beat him up. So, Odell Beckham's camp said, nah, they ain't do that. I don't know what's going on. And so Temple sent his attorney to be like, we have evidence of you offering $1,000 to sleep with a girl from Arizona visiting L.A. And they also have evidence of drugs of the most, this is a quote, evidence of drugs of the most prohibited types readily available and consumed at his parties.
Wait.
So, hold on. So, you got beat up at OBJ's house, and now you want to snitch.
That's what I was about to ask.
That's what's
so
happening.
that's what's happening?
That's what's happening.
Oh.
So, first of all, do I believe that OBJ probably paid for some booty at some point in his life? I think that all those athletes pay for booty at some point. Athletes and celebrities. I mean, these Instagram models don't have their booking info and their bios for no reason.
That is true.
Because I mean,
but there's plenty of them out here that ain't asking for money. They just, want to be able to say to somebody, I slept with so-and-so. I think that's horrible. But
it is what it is. But, I mean, I just think this is a case of snitching.
Again, watch your mans who you got hanging with
around you. Watch the people that you
I know Chris Brown said these hoes ain't loyal, but I mean,
your boys ain't loyal.
Your boys ain't loyal. They out here getting you set up.
Bruh.
They either snitching or getting you set up on some stupid charges that you may not have anything to do with. But you just got to watch your mans. I'm telling you.
So, I'm going to a better story. I'm sticking with football for now. Going to a better story.
Okay.
So, for those of you that don't know, I used to do a sports show back in the day. I had a sports show called the Saturday Sports Tailgate, me and Big Chili Dog. And we had a running theme for every show where I would find a way to work Jamarcus Russell's name and his career into the show to kind of express my disappointment. And I gave Jamarcus Russell a really, really, really hard time. And a lot of it really was just jokes. But, you know, I'm pretty sure I went overboard a time or two. I'm pretty sure I kind of went out of pocket a couple times. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say publicly right now that I was wrong, number one. And number two, I'm a Jamarcus Russell fan. Because what I'm looking at Jamarcus Russell doing today in 2018 is nothing short of amazing. Jamarcus Russell got to the league, of course, you know, I think he was the number one draft pick. Yeah, number one draft pick, NFL draft pick, coming out of LSU. I mean, the kid was amazing. He could throw the ball a country mile from one knee, you know, and he was an amazing athlete. He showed up to camp overweight, and, you know, by his second year, he was bounced out of the league. I mean, he got an amazingly huge contract and was still getting paid after he wasn't playing no more. You know, I think somebody said he was on the sideline eating Cheetos one game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always thought it was just a squandered opportunity. Like, he just threw his career away. You know, hindsight is 2020. Learned a little bit more about his circumstances, how he lost his uncle and all that, and how, you know, he just went through a long, deep depression and all that stuff. And a couple of years ago, I remember hearing that he was going to try to make a comeback. Like, he had lost like 40 pounds, and he was trying to make a comeback to NFL. He still had the ability to play and all that. And I was actually rooting for him those couple of years ago. Like, I really wanted to see Jamarcus Russell come back. And he had a tryout, I think, with the Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had a tryout with the Cardinals. But the thing about it is that it didn't work out. And ever since then, I've kind of wondered what happened. Well, a story came out this past week that says Jamarcus Russell is back at his alma mater, his old high school, Williamson High School in Mobile, Alabama. And he is coaching quarterbacks, giving back to the community. He's traveling with some of the talent to these various, you know, the big thing now in prep football is these 7-on-7 tournaments that they do, so these kids can get workouts in the summer and showcase their skills to potential recruiters and all that kind of stuff. And so he's traveling with the kids and helping them work on their stuff and just giving back to his community and all that stuff. And I gotta say, man, I'm just really proud. Like, I'm proud to be from the same state as Jamarcus Russell. I'm proud that the state produced a gentleman of the same caliber and quality as Jamarcus Russell and all those football coaches. I'm not just singling out Jamarcus Russell. I'm talking about Jamarcus Russell not because he's a celebrity, but because it's the story of what I consider to be redemption. You know, when you love something, you don't give up on it. And if this is his way of continuing to live his dream and to give back at the same time, I absolutely love it. And I'm a Jamarcus Russell fan. So as of right now, I'm going on record saying I'm a Jamarcus Russell fan, and I'm looking on eBay for a Jamarcus Russell jersey.
That's very big of you.
I was wrong. Like I said, I was wrong, and I'm proud of who he's become. And I don't even know the man. I just want to see him win.
Good
and
stuff.
that was my biggest thing, man. Like I saw him play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw him play live. Like I saw him play when he was in high school, and I saw him play again in college. And I was just like, this dude is it. You know, and I guess I just wanted to see him win so bad. I don't know what in me made me want to see him specifically win so bad. It might have had something to do with him being from Alabama and being from the circumstances that he came from and using his talent as gift. And he had such an obviously high level of talent and football IQ. I just wanted to see him win and be that prototypical black quarterback. Like, he could have been one of the greats. But the thing is, I had to come to the realization that, you know, my expectations of him were probably irrational. I was probably a little bit caught up more in my college football fandom than I should have been. And, you know, I don't know the guy. And I was wrong. I think that one thing that this does show me, though, is that if God wants you to be great at something, you're going to be great at it.
Say it again.
It may not be in the way that you expect to be great at it or the way you originally envisioned to be great at it, but you're going to be great at it.
Amen.
And I
somebody.
think that by the time Jamarcus Russell's story is done and written, it's gonna be said in the same breath as greatness. Because I think that's in him. Like you could not watch Jamarcus Russell play at any level and not see greatness. So I just think that this is a way to show that, one door got closed, God opened up a window.
You better give us a word today. Felt that all in my shanana.
Might need some cream for that. Go get you some ointment. What's going on with you? So, next up. So I told you there was something that made me proud to be from the state of Alabama. There's also some shenanigans going on down in Alabama that make me disgusted.
Of course.
So in Birmingham right now, there's a trial going on for I think the guy's a state representative, former state representative, who is on trial right now for corruption and bribery. Basically, he took some bribes from some companies and some entities to manipulate poor black people in the community into not filing a class action lawsuit for pollution and chemicals that had been seeped into and dumped into their neighborhood. And the trial is going on right now at the federal courthouse down there. And there's a lot of stuff coming out. The head of the Birmingham chapter of the NAACP had been implicated in the overall scheme. His name is Hezekiah Jackson. The guy who's on trial testified that he paid the head of the NAACP to get folks to not have their soil tested because, I think the rumor was, from what I heard, was that he was telling folks that if they got their soil tested by a government agency, that would open them up to have their land taken via eminent domain. So there was a press conference that went on with a couple of Birmingham activists a couple of weeks ago where they said, if you've been paid, you need to step down. He stood up there and he crashed the press conference essentially and said, I need to see the evidence. Show me the invoices. Where the documentation? Well, the documentation came out this week. And there are emails between this guy, Hezekiah Jackson, and the state representative, Oliver Robinson, that's on trial. Emails, documentation,
Wow.
shell nonprofit corporations that were actually funded by the people who were polluting the community. This nonprofit held a coat drive where the families of poor people were being told they could get a free coat, but while they were there, they would be hearing a pitch on why the EPA shouldn't be allowed to test their land. So you give people coats because they're poor and cold, so you can manipulate them into not suing these folks. Okay.
That's a trade-off, isn't it? Wow. But that's very similar to a situation that occurred in my hometown. It's actually still going on to this day. And it actually struck a nerve with me pretty bad. It was always kind of odd to me growing up as a kid, but I never questioned it. You would go into this, of course, as we would label it, a black neighborhood. Within this black neighborhood, there's this huge, factory.
Right.
Huge. And they did something with, wood treatment or something. So there would be these huge stacks of wood with, I guess, whatever chemicals and stuff that they put on them. Well, they apparently decided they ran something underground that was supposed to, I think the intention was for it to go down to some lake or something. I don't know, and empty out. Or either it was just supposed to go underground, period. I don't know what the actual intention was, but of course it was a known thing that the chemicals were underground. But of course it was a primarily black neighborhood, so who cared, right?
Right.
Well, I think the only reason it came to light, a local church started digging to do something, and in the process uncovered all of this stuff under the ground. And was like, what is that? And they got, tested and found out all this stuff. And then it was identified that was the source. Big lawsuit. Long story short, it's gone around circles and circles and circles. One law firm, another law firm. Currently, there's another handful of people, I myself included, who were not a part of the first group of people that were included in that class action lawsuit. And everybody's just like, hey, you know, when do I get my check? Everybody's checking for it. Everybody's waiting. You know, they're getting the runaround.
And these people will die before they see that money.
Well, yeah, a lot of the people that have been paid already, they receive payments for family members that have been dead for years. I mean, it was a known fact that these chemicals caused cancer as well as other issues. And so a lot of people are upset about it. The company was Karen McGee. They changed the name. Of course, they sold it to another company. So now there was the hang up and who do you sue and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's horrible. But right now it's like this Tronox claim. It's like, yeah, that's who actually I won't smoke with. I've been waiting on my check. You know, I need my coins.
So my biggest issue with this is black leaders, quote unquote, black leaders, claiming to serve our community and pimping our community at the same time. Now, I have a huge, I've always, anybody that knows me knows that I'm not anti-church, I'm not anti-Christianity, I am anti-pimping in the pulpit. Always been anti that. Always been anti-fleecing the community. If and I'm saying this right now, I'm going to say this publicly. If your church does not have a plan to make your community and congregation better, and the only thing they want you to do is donate to the building fund, leave. That is not a church. That is a multi-level marketing scheme.
Or to extend the parking lot.
Oh yeah, you're paying into something and not getting anything in return. And don't think it's spiritually, because 9 times out of 10, what I've noticed is that a lot of churches, you know, they may give you a Bible verse or two, but are they really feeding you?
Right.
But that's a whole other topic. And so we need more people in our community to stand up and do the right thing and have a heart for the people. Now, with that being said specifically, when we talk about leaders having a heart for the people, when we talk about leaders caring about the people, you know, we're often talking about, you know, well, Martin Luther King, the name that always comes up is Martin Luther King and Brother Malcolm and all these folks. You know, we have our stalwarts, you know, our titans. We have our Mount Rushmore of activism, so to speak. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What my issue sometimes is that these folks that really are put in the forefront don't really care about the community.
You mean
nowadays,
right.
Today,
okay.
Nowadays,
I agree.
Nowadays, they don't really care about the community. And so the folks that do care about the community, we talk about Martin Luther King, we talk about Malcolm X, we talk about all these leaders who, you know and we love and we care about and we revere, that had a heart for the community. And our current leaders oftentimes do not have a heart for the community. The only thing they're there to do is line their pockets. That's the only thing that these folks want to do, is make some money, get a check, get the bag, and get some notoriety, get some attention. But there are certain people out there still who actually do, I believe, and from what I've noticed, actually do care about their communities, and they're willing to put their life, their livelihood, and, you know, sometimes their bodies on the line for that. One of those people back in my hometown is Carlos Chavers Jr. He's a young guy, really young. You know, I'm at least a decade older than Carlos is. Carlos has made a lot of noise, done a lot of interesting things in the community. You know, I'll use the term interesting. I don't want to use a negative connotation or a negative adjective. I don't always agree with his methods, but I always agree that, you know, he's trying to do the right thing. I do always agree with that. We mentioned Carlos a couple months ago. He was the one that called the mayor a coon ass nigga. Just so you have an idea of what I say, I think that his heart sometimes is in the right place, but sometimes his methods are not. Okay? So what Carlos has done, he's publicized this thing called the Smokeout, Birmingham Smokeout. Now, we've seen this happen in other cities. It happened fairly frequently in Atlanta a while back. It happened a lot. It happened in D.C. not too long ago. It happened in Portland, Oregon. It happened in a couple of places in California before they decriminalized marijuana. The thing about those cities that I just named is that they had the population base for that.
Exactly.
When you get 2,000 people in one space, the police are not going to waste their resources getting 2,000 misdemeanors. It's not going to happen. Point blank, period. You do that, and then you also make a big statement saying, hey, if it's not big enough to arrest 2,000 people at one time when you know we're doing something illegal, why are you arresting us by onesies and twosies anyway? Just decriminalize it. That makes sense. Now, the state of Georgia, which is next to my home state of Alabama, just decriminalized a certain amount of marijuana. It happens. Now, nobody ever expected Georgia to decriminalize marijuana in any way, shape, form, or fashion, especially considering how much money they bring in from drug stops and misdemeanor arrests dealing with marijuana. So the thing is, when you're in a deep South state that has no interest whatsoever in decriminalizing marijuana or ending, any sort of punishment for marijuana specifically, you want to kind of slow walk that. You want to get some grassroots and groundswell support before you start doing these public events and putting people in jeopardy of getting hurt, in danger. Because the thing is, when you publicize something like that, people are going to be interested. People are going to show up. Not just the people who want to get marijuana decriminalized, but also law enforcement. So you mean to tell me that, and now Birmingham is in a unique situation because Birmingham, within a 20-something mile radius, you have about 20 different municipalities. Mm-hmm. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, as well as the Birmingham Police Department, and depending on where they are, other police departments could all have jurisdiction over this one particular area. You get 30 people out there. You get 30 people out there. And you got 60 officers that can be there literally in less than 5 minutes.
You have a problem.
You're working backwards. What you should do is talk to the right people first at the top and say, how can we declassify or deschedule these drugs? How can we get this decriminalized first before we start pushing out for these big public events? You don't have the ground support first. One thing that people say in football all the time is that you use the run to set up the pass. You get your ground game going to set up your long game to score.
Right.
The ground game is talking to the right people, getting the right people in place, and then doing your big stuff to score. It ain't enough ground game there.
I mean, one of the things that I think about a lot when you reference the larger cities that have similar, situations. But when I think about Birmingham, and of course, yeah, there's money in Birmingham, right? We know that. But I'm thinking about some people may consider it, for lack of better terms, petty charges, right?
Right.
So they don't think, it should be existing anymore. But how much money do they make off of those petty charges? How many young
thousands,
men? Right.
Hundreds of thousands.
So are they willing to let that go?
They're not, because
exactly.
The thing is, it's a significant portion of certain budgets.
Because once you're in the system,
you're
a dollar amount. It's a dollar amount attached to you.
You a check.
Right. So, yeah, that's...
Think about it. They're not chasing you because you're smoking weed. They chasing the bag.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So we got one more story, and then we're going to get out of here. And this is going to be quick. Monique called Roseanne, her sister in comedy, and said she wouldn't call Roseanne a racist. I'm completely convinced now that Monique has no friends and that somebody is gassing her and telling her wrong stuff to say. And if she'd just be quiet, everything would have been all right.
It's her daddy.
And on that note, thank you guys for paying attention. Thank you guys for listening to us here at the Kind of Sleepy Podcast. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, all these different places. Make sure you like, rate, subscribe, download us, all that stuff. And we'll catch y'all next week. Wait, before we go, you got anything to say?
No, sugar baby daddies, sweethearts, lovers, everybody. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, y'all.
We
Check
love
out
y'all
next
for
week.
real.